What is up, guys? Lundic here, and yeah, I've got an unplanned audio video for you today. As the title says, top 5 matches for CM Punk and Daniel Bryan in AEW. Yeah, so that's basically it, really. We're going to talk about. Well, first, I'm going to have like 5-10 minutes maybe just talking about the potential signs of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan in AEW. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out the top 5 matches that I would like to see them have in the company. But I'm going to challenge myself a little bit. I'm going to do it in a way where I can't pick the same person twice. So for example, Kenny Omega can only wrestle one of them. So I'm not going to have Omega wrestle them both. Just that way, it just makes it a little bit harder because I could easily just pick the same 5 people to wrestle both guys. And yeah, so the big news that's been kind of circulating over the last few days. Now, I just want to make this clear right now before anyone gets on my case. None of this is confirmed or facts or anything like that. That AEW is either being talked to or possibly signed to contracts. Both CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, or aka Bryan Danielson. So that's going to be a weird one because I'm going to have to start getting used to calling him Bryan Danielson again because let's face it, he's not going to go to AEW and become Daniel Bryan because that's his WWE name and WWE own that name. So he's probably going to go back to being the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. It's kind of funny, when he went to WWE originally, took me a good couple of years to get used to calling him Daniel Bryan instead of Bryan Danielson. If during the video I switch back between Bryan Danielson and Daniel Bryan, that's just a genuine mistake, because it's just a force of habit calling him Daniel Bryan. I might accidentally just call him Daniel Bryan throughout this video. So a lot of sources say that both of these guys have actually put pen to paper on contracts, and they'll be coming in very soon. I mean, the hot rumor is that AEW is going to hold off Bryan Danielson until after All Out and have him debut on that big stadium show in New York, which I believe September the 24th, I think it is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's September the 24th, but obviously they've sold out. I think it's like a 24,000 seater stadium for an episode of Dynamite, which is going to be cool. And as for CM Punk, if hypothetically Punk has signed or is going to sign, well, there's a pay-per-view in Chicago on September the 5th called All Out, isn't he? So, logically thinking, you think he's probably going to have to debut on that show. Now the big question, what do I think about CM Punk and Bryan Danielson signing for AEW? Wow, this is big news. This is really, really big news. I mean, if AEW could get one of these guys, that'd be something. But to get both, my God, Tony Khan, you've got to give him. He's building a bit of a dream roster right now. So these are 2 genuine stars that can really help AEW a lot. I mean, these are guys that people that just watch WWE are going to think, oh, CM Punk's back in wrestling, but it's on that other channel. Maybe I'll start watching AEW. Bryan Danielson, the same. He's literally just come off a big run in WWE. I mean, he's literally just main evented WrestleMania this year, and his last match was putting over Roman Reigns on SmackDown. So, yeah, this is great stuff. I mean, I am slightly concerned that AEW may be getting a bit of a bloated roster right now, because there's just so many guys on the roster, and I am quite concerned about how they're going to use them all. But I'm hoping this upcoming Rampage show is going to be starting on a Friday night. I'm hoping that's going to be a show to maybe develop some underutilized talent, maybe give them a little bit of a showcase on Rampage, and then Dynamite can focus on more of the main event guys, and then obviously if someone gets over on Rampage, they can start working more on Dynamite and stuff like that, and maybe occasionally the big stars can work Dynamite, you know what I mean. So CM Punk. So it looks like after 7 long years, CM Punk may be making his return to pro wrestling. And it looks like it's happening with AEW. And it's interesting, really. I mean, come on, for the last couple of years, CM Punk back to wrestling, as the rumours made the rounds over and over the years. And it's never quite materialised, but it doesn't look like it's close to happening. then it looks like it's closer happening now than it's ever been. Not, I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, when he did the WWE backstage thing, I thought, yeah, he'll probably put his differences aside and come back to WWE soon. But I suppose if CM Punk wants to come back to wrestling and then wants to not so much out and out creative control, but have a lot of input what he's doing, the AEW is probably going to be a better fit for him than WWE. And I'm guessing some of the bitterness and resentment from Punk's departure in 2014 is probably still there. And if he can go to AEW, come back to wrestling and make comparable money in AEW than he does to WWE, it's probably a good move for him, because he left WWE under a big cloud in 2014, tried to be a UFC fighter, and just let's be kind, that just did not go well, did it? No, it didn't. I mean, there's no easy way to dress that one up. CM Punk's MMA career was pretty much a disaster. And I guess he's probably thinking, okay, he's going to be 43 in October, so if CM Punk wants to have one big last run in him, he's probably going to have to do it sooner rather than later, because I mean, you got to realise, 2014 was 7 years ago. That's a hell of a long time. You got to think, CM Punk's peak 2011, 2012 was 9-10 years ago. So it was a long time ago. So I feel like if CM Punk's going to put his feet back into wrestling and go all in and try and have a second career in wrestling, he's got to do it now, because you think, like, with him being 43 years old and all that, the window of opportunity gets smaller and smaller every year, and obviously the time passage as well. I mean, there's probably quite a lot of fans that have only just started watching wrestling in the last 4 or 5 years and weren't around when CM Punk was in his prime. So I think he's got to do it now. And yeah, this is one I'm excited for, but I'll explain in a bit later. I'm probably a lot more excited to see Bryan Danielson in AEW. Just a Punk, right? I'm going to temper my expectations here. Yeah, it's probably going to be exciting, but I feel like there's a good chance it probably won't be as good as what people think it is, because the big question is CM Punk physically as good as he was? I mean, let's face it, this is not CM Punk at 2011. It's Phil Brooks in 2021. So we'll see what he brings to the table. I think his big strengths, of course, are going to be his mic work, and in AEW and all that, he's probably going to get a lot more freedom in his promos. I think initially it's going to get a huge buzz. I think whenever he has his first match at All Out, which that's probably going to be the case, that's going to be huge. I think like the first couple of Dynamites with him on are going to probably draw good numbers and all that. So I'm thinking he's probably going to have a 2-3 year run in AEW, and then maybe if he has a good run and all that, he can retire from the business on a much better note. Because let's face it, the end of CM Punk's career was a sad one, really. I mean, it would be a massive shame if he never came back, and his really lasting images was his last few weeks in WWE and all that, and all the fallout from that. So yeah, I'm quite hopeful. And then not only was people talking about CM Punk, they've also been talking about Bryan Danielson, aka Daniel Bryan, who's been a free agent since the end of April. For me, I probably assumed he was probably just going to come back to WWE, because unlike Punk, Bryan had a good relationship with WWE management. He left on a positive note. So I think he's got a good relationship with Vince and the management in WWE. Of course, his wife, Brie Bella, very well connected in WWE, doing the Total Bellas and all that stuff. And her and Nikki's probably going to have another run in WWE at some point. So just kind of sure Bryan might take some time off, be with his kids and that. Maybe do a couple of international shows and then probably come back to WWE later on. But it looks like Tony Khan's managed to work some magic on him. So who knows when, but obviously at some point Bryan and AEW have been talking, and I guess Tony Khan has probably come up with a deal more to Bryan's liking. I think the big sticking point, and this is probably why he's possibly gone to AEW. I'm not saying he definitely has, because that's not confirmed yet. I'm guessing because one of Bryan's big things is he wants to do New Japan dates, do Mexico dates and all that. And that just, you don't get that freedom for WWE contract. You just don't. That's how WWE's operated for decades now. I mean, once you sign to WWE, you're exclusively signed to WWE, and the only real time that WWE guys work for other promotions is if WWE has relationships with those other promotions. Whereas you look at AEW, I mean, yes, the AEW is obviously going to be the priority, but Tony Khan's let guys work in other promotions as long as it doesn't clash with like AEW's schedule. So before the pandemic, John Moxley was going back and forth to Japan. Chris Jericho was still working in New Japan. Kenny Omega's been doing stuff in AAA and stuff like that. I think the Young Bucks have as well. Like just other guys like people doing just various independent dates and stuff like that. I mean, John Mox has also been doing stuff like Bloodsport and stuff like that. So, I guess Tony Khan's come up with the right deal for Bryan Danielson. So is he probably going to, and I think the schedule as well, because AEW aren't running house shows. So I'm guessing for someone like CM Punk, he's probably going to work. He'll work every pay-per-view, probably. He probably, like, I don't think he's going to wrestle week to week to week in AEW. I don't think. That's my assumption anyway. He'll probably work like big Dynamite shows, like the big Fighter Fest shows and like the big theme shows and stuff like that. So and then Danielson, he can work his Dynamites, he can work his pay-per-views, but then I think for him. Because I don't think he's going to be doing 200 dates a year anymore now. He's 40 years old. He's lost his career once. And I guess for him, he's probably realising at 40 years old and probably as battered as he has been over the last decade or so. He hasn't got a lot of time left and he just wants to do something creatively fulfilling. Because I'm thinking, yeah, if he does go back to WWE, what can he really do that he hasn't already done before? You know what I mean? I mean, this is a guy, he's done it all. He's made event 2 WrestleManias, 4-time world champion. He's wrestled pretty much everyone on the WWE roster that anyone would want to wrestle, give or take one a few guys. So what's he going to do? Be on that horrible show, Raw? I mean, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I suppose he could have had a run in NXT, which would have been pretty cool. But I think he's looking at the landscape outside of WWE. There's multiple guys he can work with. I mean, even on the AEW roster alone, which we're going to get to in a second, there's tons of guys that he could work with, and it would be really, really good. But for me, I think I'm a lot more excited at the prospect of Danielson showing up in New Japan. I mean, come on, how awesome would it be to see Bryan Danielson in the Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdom next year? Now, obviously, he was on AEW contract. Don't think you're going to see stuff like G1 climaxes because, of course, if you've got TV every week, you're not going to let someone just stay in Japan for 4 or 5 weeks to do a G1 climax tournament, are you? Unless there's a special arrangement there. So you can easily see Bryan working like near enough all the big shows in New Japan, so the Invasion Attack shows, Dominion, all that sort of stuff. There's New Japan Strong as well, the American brand, which if Danielson can work some of those shows, that would be great. And I think he was talking about he wants to do Mexico as well, so he could do AAA, CMML. Maybe he can do European dates. It's a great time, isn't it? I mean, now what does this mean for AEW if they can get both? It's not going to be like Nash and Hall, because I think a lot of people are comparing to Kevin Nash and Scott Hall going to WCW. I don't think it's going to do that. I think it's, in a nutshell, I think AEW is awesome for people that are already wrestling fans. But because I think those two go to AEW, I think the sort of fan that likes those guys are watching AEW anyway. And I'm just not sure if they're going to bring in new viewers. So what's moving the needle? So right now, the last 2 shows, they've done over 1 million. But generally, they're doing about 800, 850, 900,000 average. So are they going to? I think the initial buzz will probably have a bit of a bump initially. But I don't really think they're going to bring in many more TV views than what they've already got, to be honest with you. I don't think they'll move the needle that much. But it'll be interesting. It will be interesting, won't it? I mean, like I said, look at the AEW roster now. With the guys you've got, adding CM Punk and Bryan Danielson to that roster, holy crap, that is a good roster. And I'm enjoying AEW right now. Feel like, yeah, when they were on Friday and Saturday nights, they probably phoned it in for a little bit. But since they've gone back to Wednesday, and specifically when the crowds have come back and they're going on the road, feel like they've got a lot of momentum right now. And I guess Tony Khan's in an interesting time now. He's got some momentum. He's got some buzz around his promotion. He's got some big TV deals. Does he try to push on, or does he try to stay where they are? And I guess the Khan, he's going to try and push on by bringing these two guys in to... Let's just see what happens. I'm interested in it anyway. But anyway, so we've talked about that. Now we're going to go to top 5 CM Punk and Daniel Bryan matches in AEW. And the guy I'm going to start with is CM Punk. So just a reminder, as I said in the introduction, the challenge for this one is not to use the same two guys twice. So obviously there's a lot of guys that these guys could wrestle in AEW, but I'm going to stick to just 5. And these are the 5 that I've picked. Like, I will say I did think about doing Colt Cabana and basing it off the CM Punk and Colt Cabana's real life feud, but Colt Cabana's just a low mid card in AEW, isn't he? He's a part of the Dark Order. I think he mainly wrestles on Dark and Dark Elevation. Doesn't do much in AEW, and I just feel like there's a lot more bit better upside than the other people I wanted CM Punk to wrestle. Now the first one's maybe an interesting choice, maybe an out there choice. So I'm going to do it from reverse order from 5 to 1. So number 5, I would love to see CM Punk versus Absolute Ricky Starks. Because, yeah, I think there's a lot bigger stars than Ricky Starks. But I want to have Punk and Bryan work with a mixture of established veterans and some new guys. And Ricky Starks is one that's really caught my eye. I think AEW is in an interesting position with him. They've done enough with him. They've done quite a few things with him. He's at a certain level. But I think he just needs that one big feud, that one big rivalry to push him to the next level. And he hasn't had that yet. I mean, the thing with Brian Cage has been good, but that's not the one that's going to elevate him to the next level. He also did a pretty good job in the feud with Darby Allin and Sting, but that's not going to take him to the next level. So one of CM Punk's big things, obviously, let's be honest, Punk and Bryan aren't coming in to be mid-card players. They're not. They wouldn't. Why would they do that? Why would they come in and be in the middle of the card? So they're going to win a lot, let's be fair. They're probably going to come in, win a lot of the matches. They're probably going to win more than they lose. But there'll be times where they'll probably take younger guys in the roster and put them over. And this would be a good one for me. CM Punk, Ricky Starks. I mean, I think Ricky Starks has the potential to be a possible breakout star in AEW. He's got good mic skills. He's got good in-ring skills. He's good. He's got youth. Not a big guy by any means, but has a decent enough look. He doesn't look too bad. And yeah, I just feel like now he's in a position where he needs to wrestle someone consistently much more established than him and have that guy put him over. And this could work for me. Punk versus Ricky Starks. I think this would be a really good match. I feel like it'd be a good way to push Ricky Starks at next level. Let Ricky Starks have some promo battles with CM Punk. Let him see what he can do. And let's see what CM Punk can do with him. Now, the second guy, I mean, I consider this guy for both guys because I feel like this guy wrestling either guy could work out really well. But I ultimately decided to pick Punk to face this guy. And this guy's also a newcomer to AEW, going by the name of Malachi Black, also known as Aleister Black in WWE, and Tommy End in his indie career before going to WWE. Now, Aleister Black, Malachi Black is there. Now he's in AEW. Now he's feuding with Cody. And I know how this is going to go. Cody's going to just... I swear to God, if Cody beats him in his first match in a couple of weeks, I'll go fucking mad. I really will. But realistically, I think he's probably going to beat Cody in his first match. And of course, because Cody won't be able to let this lie, Cody will have to get his revenge and beat him it all out. I mean, that's how I think it's going to go. That's another one. That's another one. What can he do in AEW? Malachi Black. Now, pick this one because I think there's a lot of similarities between these two. I mean, they've kind of got similar looks, similar backgrounds with the tattoos and all that. Kind of feel like Aleister Black, if WWE had used them right, could have had a similar impact in WWE than CM Punk did. I mean, the only downside to that is Black's mic skills are nowhere near as good as CM Punk's, but the way I think there's something about Malachi Black he could get over with the younger crowd and all that, and I like to think he's going to do that with AEW. So yeah, I think Punk and Black, this will be a really interesting match to do. Feel like I'm kind of intrigued by this Black character. I think this is a character he probably wanted to play in WWE, but the creative and probably Vince just didn't get it at all and just wouldn't let him do it, and would rather just have him sitting in a dark room blabbing on every single week and calling and wanting to fight but not going to the ring and calling people out. It's just kind of disappointing how Aleister Black should have been much more in WWE, but hopefully now as in AEW he can be what he could have been in WWE. Yeah, I think this match would be great actually. I think this would be a great match to do for Punk early on in his AEW run. I feel like maybe this is the one where they can have a back and forth match. Punk can get the victory over this one. This will be sweet. Then coming number 3, Eddie Kingston. I mean, the promos alone between these two would be epic. Now, I've looked this up and I can't find any documented matches between these two. I thought they might have been, because they were both in the independent scene in the early to mid 2000s around the same time in IWA Mid-South and stuff like that. I think Kingston started in like 2002, by which point Punk was well established as himself as a name on the independent scene. But I can't find any documented matches between these two. I mean, I'm not saying they definitely haven't had a match before, but I couldn't find any evidence of that happening. Now, obviously Eddie Kingston now, after all these years, finally getting a break. I mean, came into AEW last year to do the thing with Cody, and then managed to get himself over and then have that big feud with Moxie into full gear. Kind of feel like he's lost his way a little bit in recent times. I mean, since the Moxie feud, they haven't really done a ton with him. I know they tried to do something with him and Penta and Rey Fenix as the new Death Triangle, then Pac came back and they had a little feud there. Then him and Moxie went after the Young Bucks, but since Double or Nothing, he's not really done much at all, Eddie Kingston, and I guess that's just because they just haven't really got much for him, or they focus on other guys right now. Now, this could be the thing to bring Eddie Kingston back into prominence in AEW. He's got to be one of my favourite guys in the AEW roster. I mean, he just comes across as real. I mean, I think he's not playing a character, let's just put it that way. I think he's got to be one of the top 5 promos in the business right now. I mean, if not top 3, he's that good. Ring work, yeah, fine. I wouldn't say he's a great in-ring performer or anything like that, but I feel like he does a pretty good job in the ring overall. So yeah, I think more than anything, I think the match between these two would be good, but I think the promo battles between the two would be absolutely epic. I mean, you could go on a similar story to the one that Moxley and Kingston were having, where Moxley can be pissed off with Punk for being that independent hero. The sold out who went to the entertainers, WWE and all that. And now here he is, now he's trying to crawl back into the business, and Eddie Kingston's not letting CM Punk take a spot from him and all that. And Eddie Kingston's going to drive CM Punk out of AEW and drive him back to WWE and all that. So yeah, I think, and then obviously Punk can more than holds him on the microphone. Yeah, so I think the promo battles between these two would be great. I think the storyline could be awesome as well and all that. Maybe CM Punk could be straight edge and look. Maybe we can see more of the straight edge Punk where he's looking down at Eddie Kingston for his life choices of drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. I mean, it'd be pretty good. I think the match itself, I think the match would be good. Don't think it'll be an amazing match or anything, but I just feel like the promo battles will be absolutely epic. Now, coming at number 2. Now, a lot of people, if you think this is number 2, you're probably going to You're probably going to wonder what number 1 would have been. So, number 2 will be CM Punk versus Jon Moxley. Now, let's say CM Punk's debut match happens at All Out in Chicago. I think this is the match to do initially, to be honest. Because let's face it, I don't think Moxley's really got a good storyline going in AEW right now. Because obviously he's come back from his break after having a child. And for the last couple of weeks he was defending the IWGP United States Championship, which is now dropped to Lance Archer. Then you look at the landscape for All Out. Omega's probably wrestling Page. Jericho's probably wrestling MJF. Cody and Black's probably going to have a match. So Moxley's kind of, there's nothing obvious lined up for Moxley right now. And I feel like, because I'm guessing I think Punk will probably be announced first, and that's probably going to happen within the next week or two. And I think the smart move would be to not have CM Punk appear on TV until All Out. So you're thinking Punk and Moxley, that would be a great match to do it All Out. Now this is just a feud that WWE obviously missed because CM Punk left in 2014 and then Dean Ambrose didn't break out onto singles so after that. So looked it up and they have had 2 matches on Raw and SmackDown. Yeah, this was when, remember what CM Punk's really last feud in WWE was feud for the Shield. So Punk and Dean Ambrose wrestled on the December 6, 2013 Raw, and then the December 9th, 2013 episode of SmackDown. Now, I can't even remember if these were good matches or not. I'm guessing, since I don't really remember them, they probably weren't that great or anything. Because this is when Punk was really hurt, and obviously now we know his passion for WWE is dead at this point. So these missed each other, because if you think about it, I think Moxley debuted in the Independence in 2005, and that was the year Punk signed with WWE. And then obviously they were Ambrose signed in 2011, but didn't come up until 2012. And then, like I said, Ambrose's big run in WWE didn't happen until after Punk left. So these have missed each other for all these years, and now finally we're going to get it. And I think this is another one where the promos will be epic between these two. I think Dean Ambrose, John Moxley is someone CM Punk would really love to wrestle, and I'm guessing he's probably going to be on the short list of guys CM Punk really wants to wrestle. I think the promo battles between these two would be great as well, and it would be a fantastic match for them to do it All Out. I think the crowd would be absolutely insane for this one. This would be an atmosphere. This would be an atmosphere to die for. I think if this match happens in Chicago, bloody hell. I mean, they could have a series. They could have wrestling matches, and that could maybe lead to Punk and Moxley having a lights out match at some point, maybe on a big episode of Dynamite in the future or something like that. They could have a 3-match series, in fairness, between them, couldn't they? 2 wrestling matches where one wins one and one wins the other. Then they could maybe have the blow-off in some hardcore match or something like that. But yeah, this is one for me. Now, if Moxley's number 2, who is number 1? And for me, the number 1 match I would love to see CM Punk have in AEW is CM Punk versus MJF. That's right. Punk, MJF, the veteran CM Punk, the young upstart MJF. I mean, can't say enough good things about MJF. I mean, he's one of AEW's big breakout stars. He's just been awesome throughout his time in AEW, and it's only going to get better and better and better, and is probably, when it's all said and done, going to be one of AEW's greatest world champions of all time when that happens. So yeah, I feel like CM Punk, if he's coming in, it'd be perfect for him to work with MJF and bring MJF up to another level, and then put him over in the end, because I think that's just the way it should go. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, to be fair. Now, wow. I feel like the promo battle between these two, I think MJF could have a field day with CM Punk. I could just imagine the zingers MJF could come up with to insult CM Punk on the microphone, especially if he starts bringing up his UFC career and stuff like that, and all of his, maybe make fun of his straight edge lifestyle and shit like that. That would be pretty great. And obviously Punk can rag on MJF for being a spoiled little kid and all that, spoiled rich kid and all that. And obviously you can do the thing where MJF's talking shit, but he's also got his inner circle, his Pinnacle faction to back him up. So maybe Punk can find some allies to help him take down the Pinnacle and all that. I mean, they could have a 3-4 month build up to having a big pay-per-view match between these two. And I feel like fans would be dying to see this match if it happens. I feel like the match would probably be pretty good. Probably wouldn't be an amazing match or anything, but I just think the overall feud and storyline between these two would be pretty epic. And for me, if I had the power to just pick one match for CM Punk to have or one feud for him to have in AEW, I would definitely go for this one, Punk and MJF. And last, well, certainly not least, we're going to pick Bryan Danielson's top 5 AEW matches. Now, for me, I'm more excited to see what Punk can do in terms of storylines and promos because I think that's obvious. But for Bryan Danielson, I'm so excited to see what he can do in the ring because he hasn't wrestled outside of WWE since 2009. He hasn't been the American Dragon Bryan Danielson for nearly 12 years now. And I just feel like he's a guy, he loves wrestling. He's really passionate about it. And I just think he's looking at some of the talent out there and thinking, oh, I could have a bang with him. Oh, I could do something special with him. Oh, look at him. I could create magic with him in the ring. So most of these matches really are going to be based around on in-ring work. Whereas, as you probably noticed, as I went down the Punk one, I gushed much more over the promo work as well. I mean, there's a lot of guys for Bryan Danielson to wrestle in AEW. So it was very hard to pick 5, but I'm going to try. So, as again, we're going to go reverse order from 5 to number 1. And number 5, I've got to go with Darby Allin. Just feel like this match would be amazing. I mean, along with MJF, I feel like Darby Allin's been probably one. I would say there's 3 big success stories in AEW so far. As far as guys that didn't have any national TV experience prior to AEW, so feel like MJF, Darby Allin, Britt Baker. Those are the 3 big success stories. And it took me a while to really accept Darby Allin. I mean, at first I wasn't sure about him. I thought, okay, he's got a fun gimmick. The young fans seem to like him. But I thought, yeah, he's probably got a ceiling. And then obviously then when he was TNT champion, he totally turned me around because he was having consistently really good matches with a wide variety of people. And an interesting thing I've noticed, there's at least 2 episodes of Dynamite with Darby Allin in the main event, and those episodes drew over 1 million. I believe there's probably another one, but the 2 I know definitely. The recent one of Ethan Page's Fighter Fest, and then the one he had with Matt Hardy, the No Holds Barred match he had with Matt Hardy a while back. That might have actually been the first one where NXT wasn't on a Wednesday night, I think. But that makes it. Is this guy maybe something of a draw? I mean, I think he's really, really popular with AEW fans, and I just feel like sky's the limit for him right now. Before I wasn't sure if Darby Allin could be world champion, but now I think he can. And I feel like if you had a match with Bryan Danielson on a big AEW show, that could be the match where he truly breaks out, because he's had a lot of great matches with Cody and Miro and other people, Ethan Page, Moxley. But I don't think he's had that truly exceptional match, that legendary match that's going to launch his career into new heights. And I feel like this could be it, because it's kind of interesting, because Bryan Danielson is now the veteran, the legend. But he'd be working for a lot of guys that are 10, 15 years younger than him, and it's be his responsibility to make them look like stars and put them over. And I can imagine him just salivating at the thought of wrestling Darby Allin. I mean, I think it's interesting with Darby Allin's high risk style and Bryan Danielson's technical wrestling. I feel like that would be a very, very interesting match to do. I could just imagine Darby Allin taking some insane bumps in this one, and then Bryan Danielson bringing out the aggression. I mean, the aggression that he showed back when he was in Ring of Honor and all that, and wrestling guys his own size and kind of just being dominant against them at times. I think this match would be great, actually. I think it'd be an awesome match. I think this could be the match that launches Darby Allin to the next level. So, coming in number 4, Bryan Danielson versus Rey Fénix. Wow. This match would be something, would it? Would it not be? Now, I think this is another one where Daniel Bryan's looking at Fénix and thinking, yeah, I could really create some magic with this guy. Although they'd never wrestled before because Phoenix didn't come onto the scene until after Bryan went to WWE, and of course Phoenix never gone to WWE before, so here we are. We can finally see this match. Now, I feel like this would be a great way to do a modern Malenko versus Mysterio classic style match. You know, the high flying luchador wrestling the technical wrestler who is much more skilled technician than the luchador and is doing everything he can to try and ground the luchador and stop his high flying tactics. I feel like, yeah, I think it'd be a spectacular match. I really do. I feel like you could either do this on AEW, or this could maybe even happen on a Mexican show. Anything really. Yeah, I just feel like give the 15, 20 minutes plus to work the magic. I feel like this match would be amazing. I mean, I love Rey Fenix's work. I think he's a closer thing to a modern Rey Mysterio, isn't he? And I just feel like it's something AEW's. They've pushed him at times. I mean, they've had him. He had a world title match with Kenny Omega. He's had a few big matches, but they haven't really gone all the way with him yet. And I just feel like they need to. I think they need to do more with Rey Fenix. I think him and Penta can go on and do their own thing. I don't think they need to be a tag team anymore as the Lucha Bros. I think both guys would be much more successful in singles action. And I think Phoenix is a guy that AEW's sat on a little bit. They haven't quite gotten the most out of him what they could do yet. And I think putting him in the ring with Bryan Danielson will be a tremendous step. And yeah, I think this match would be amazing actually. I really do. I mean, I think, yeah, like I say, it'd be a classic Malenko versus Mysterio style match with Danielson's wrestling skills versus Phoenix's obviously amazing high flying stuff. I feel like the crowd would be rabid for this one. And yeah, I think this is a match I would really want to see. Now, number 3 are all going to be awesome matches, and they were very hard to separate, but I'm going to go with them. Number 3, Bryan. I've done it again, haven't I? Bryan Danielson versus Pac. Yeah. This is a match. I think this match would be unbelievable. I think this match would be fucking amazing. Apparently these two have wrestled one time, at least one time. They wrestled at Ring of Honor back in 2007. I looked it up. But I've never seen this match before, so I can't tell if it was good or not. I'm going to say it probably wasn't great because I don't think Pac was... I think Pac was still fairly early into his career at the time. And of course, things just never aligned for it to happen in WWE. But then Bryan was on the main roster and Adrian Neville was in NXT. And then by the time Neville came up with the main roster, that was when Daniel Bryan was retired. So, wait, he came out in 2015, didn't he? Then obviously Bryan went away with the concussions and retired in 2016. And so by the time Bryan came back in 2018, I think Neville had already walked out on WWE. I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm sure that was 2017 that Neville walked out. Because he was under contract for like a year, wasn't he? And just sitting at home and doing nothing. So stars never aligned for Daniel Bryan versus Neville in WWE. And God, that would have been... Imagine that as in like 2018, 2019 or something like that. Wow. That match would have ruled. But now we can see it. And this is a match I really want to see. I mean, Pac, probably one of my favourite AEW guys. And a guy, I think the pandemic fucked his push up. I mean, he was on course to, I think, be really big in AEW. And then the global pandemic hit because Pac's, I think he still lives in Newcastle, I think. So, like, he lives in Newcastle, so he was off. And I think, like, before the pandemic, he was literally just flying out to America every week to do Dynamite and then coming back to England. So the whole pandemic, he was, like, sat at home for however many months it was. I'm pretty sure he was off TV till about December time, maybe. November, December, that sort of time. So at least 6 to 8 months he was off. Then I think because obviously with quarantine rules, if you travel, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks and all that. So I feel like he was coming back for 2 or 3 weeks, and then he was going home for a period of time, and then he was coming back. So since the pandemic, Pac hasn't consistently been on AEW television. So I'm hoping, like, once travel restrictions are lifted and all that, whenever that's going to be, I don't know. whenever that is. Feel like that's when Bryan and Pac. So when Pac's gonna be back in AEW regularly and all that, and then, wow, Bryan and Pac, that'd be great. 'Cause I feel like they're both pretty good on the microphone as well. Obviously, I don't think they're great mic guys, but I do think they are good mic guys, and I think the promo battles will be pretty good. But I'm much more excited for the match. I feel like these two are very evenly matched. I feel like Pac's got a great combination of high flying and technical wrestling. I mean, he's a good enough. I think he's a really good technical wrestler and he's an excellent high flyer. So yeah, I could see this easily being like a level of a Bryan Danielson Ring of Honor 2006 title defense quality. So like some of those amazing matches he was having with his Ring of Honor champion, you could bring that Bryan Danielson to the plate to wrestle Pac. I mean, give these 20-25 minutes. I think this would tear the absolute house down. This would be an amazing match. Now, coming in number 2 might be a controversial pick, but just hear me out before you start trashing me. I think Bryan Danielson. I've done it again, haven't I? Bryan Danielson versus Cody Rhodes. Yeah, I think when Bryan was talking about leaving WWE originally in 2018, if WWE weren't going to clear him, I think this is one of the matches people are looking forward to seeing the most. I mean, these guys are friends in real life. I mean, I think he said there was Cody Ryback and Daniel Bryan were travelling partners back in like the early 2010s in WWE. And I feel like this would be a safe match for Bryan to do. Because one of the worries is with Bryan's concussion history is he going to go all out and do some ridiculous matches where he gets dropped on his head 10 times a match and all that. But I feel like if we can get early AEW Cody Rhodes' form back, because Cody Rhodes is kind of shit the bed as of late, to be honest with you. I mean, I would say the last really match with Cody Rhodes I liked was the full gear one where he put Darby Allin over. But after that, I don't know, something just hasn't really clicked with him. I mean, the Shaq stuff was alright, but I feel like the QT Marshall, Anthony Go-Go stuff, that was terrible. I mean, yeah, I think Cody and QT was probably one of the worst feuds in AEW's history so far. That does not hit the mark at all. And the stuff he was doing with Anthony Go-Go is like, what the hell? Now, the hope is now this whole thing of Malachi Black is something we can try and get the old Cody back. But for this to work, I think I would like to see Cody Rhodes turn heel. Go back to being the American Nightmare that he was prior to AEW. Just cut some great heel promos on Daniel Bryan. Because I feel like if they try to do babyface versus babyface, Bryan versus Cody, that would not go well for Cody. I really don't think that at all. I feel like this would go so bad. I think Cody would just get booed out the building. So I feel like it would be everyone's best interest just to do a babyface Bryan versus heel Cody. Wow. And yeah, because I feel Cody can still be great in the ring. I mean, he hasn't showed it in recent months, but I feel like he's got that match in him again. It's like, because Cody was definitely one of the highlights of the first 6 to 8 months at AEW with the stuff with Dustin and then the great matches with Jericho and the stuff he was doing with MJF. I feel like if we can get that Cody back, and I feel like Daniel Bryan's probably the guy to bring it out of Cody Rhodes. I think this match would be really good. I think the promo battles will be good as well, especially on Cody's side. And I feel like this is one where Cody can put Bryan over now. Is number 1 to the surprise of absolutely nobody, I would imagine. I feel like if you've got so far, you've probably completely guessed who number 1 is, and that's Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega, the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. I mean, this is a dream match, isn't it, to be fair? Again, look this up, and they have crossed paths. So there's one match that's definitely out there on YouTube for Ring of Honor, and it's a triple threat match with Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega versus Tyler Black, or who as you now know as Seth Rollins in Ring of Honor in 2009. They've had at least one match in PWG back in 2009 as well. However, that was way before the cleaner, way before the best bout machine and all that. This was way before Kenny Omega broke out in New Japan, and he was, let's face it, in 2009 he was nowhere near as good as he became. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm not big on Kenny Omega's current character, but inside the ring, he still delivers near enough every single time. And because this would actually be a perfect first match with Bryan Danielson in AEW. Because let's face it, all likelihood, Hangman Page is going to win the AEW World Title at All Out. I mean, you'd think so, wouldn't you? You'd think that's a safe bet to happen. Because let's face it, Omega and Page, 95% is happening at that show, and you got to think Page is going to go over. So Omega's going to need a big thing to do post his world title reign, and maybe say Bryan debuts on that big show, or Omega can attack him, and maybe they could feud and then go into full gear with Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. I mean, as a wrestling match, there's not many better matches in the world you can do right now than that one. I feel like that match would be absolutely unbelievable. It would tear the house down. It'd be everything. It'd be the dream match that could come true and really deliver on that dream match scenario. I mean, wow. Just the idea of these two in the ring together. Now, I think that's got to be one where Bryan's obviously been watching the scene. He obviously knows exactly what Kenny Omega's done in the time he's been in WWE. He's probably thinking, well, one day, if I can just get to a situation where I can have a match with Kenny Omega, that'd be so badass. And now it can happen. Now it might happen. And if it does happen, I think it's going to absolutely tear the house down. So that's it. Those are my choices, guys. So do you have any more choices of the sort of matches you want to see CM Punk and Bryan Danielson have in AEW? Comment in the section below. And until next time, guys, peace.